Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good morning. I apologize for being a few seconds late. Basically, I have a few things that I'll share, and then I'm just going to kind of open up the floor. There's not much today. First, I want to just kind of explain about the Jimmy Johnson grant a little bit. Hopefully, you read about that in the Hawkeye last week. Basically, what it is, we applied for a grant, and I had mentioned it to parents at this meeting a while back. We actually applied for a $90,000 grant that would complete our entire playground area, put in an outside performance learning area, and a track that would surround the area for healthy living. Also would have North Carolina native plants surrounding it as well. So our PTO, I had Ms. Wachter, who's one of our PTO parents, kind of guided that process for me after I kind of shared the idea, and we applied for a $90,000 grant. No grant was fully funded. So we received a call. They came out and visited us multiple times. We kind of laid out what we were interested in doing and what we wanted to do. And they called us the day before they were going to release the information and told us that we won a challenge grant. Well, at first you're pretty excited because you got a $45,000 grant, but then you're overwhelmed that I have to figure out how to make $45,000. We don't have the specifics yet in regard to how the entire process is going to be laid out. There's a couple different ways it could happen. They could say, we're going to give you $45,000 up front, begin to phase in your project, and then you have to earn or work to figure out how to get the other $45,000. Or they can tell us, you need to raise your $45,000 first, and then we'll write you a check for the $45,000. We haven't been able to see the specifics yet. They just announced it Thursday afternoon. So I've been in contact with them, and I actually have already met with quite a few people to kind of create a plan of attack of how I want to try to accomplish meeting this goal. And then I'm going to share it with parents and teachers and probably create a small committee just to kind of share the information and get more ideas. But I've gone on and just looked at some business plans about how to kind of work that out. The other thing I didn't mention is the technology piece that ties into it. Also in the grant were 2 iPad labs. But basically each lab holds 10 iPads, and it's basically what the old laptop labs were, but they have iPads in them. So they would be mobile. So the whole concept was to create an outdoor learning environment to tie in healthy living and some different things, and also tie in the playground. So if we're able to accomplish this, we will be completely done with that entire project. The entire playground would have all 3 phases done. We would have a track that would have a rubberized surface that would be donated to us by another company for free. And it would have an outdoor learning area, amphitheater that could be used for multiple processes. I think that'll be the most challenging piece of how that's going to look and be able to work, especially with the codes of Cornelius in regard to getting building permits and things. They're sticklers in regard to how things are set up. And then we'll also have iPad technology that we can use throughout our building. Now that creates other challenges for us technology-wise, because the iPad at this point is not completely embraced by our school system. There's network issues, there's cost issues that tie into that, but we can work around those, I think, to get access to the server and get access to kids having the internet and things of that nature. So I think we can work our way around it, but there is a cost early on since it's so much in the infancy in regard to how it's being used in our school system. So that's exciting news. But again, with that, it becomes quite overwhelming in regard to how in God's earth you're going to figure out how to raise $45,000 without putting it all on your parents. You know, one of the things we've been trying to accomplish over the last 3 years is to pull fundraisers out. So we peeled them out slowly. Now, parents may not think that, but the reality is we've really taken off a lot of the ancillary items. So if you look at our big ticket items now, we have the entertainment book, we have our fall book fair, and we have Boosterthon are the big 3 that we use to drive what we do. Now we have the Come In Drive that we do for the book fair for those in need, and we do other little things tied into there, but we've taken out, you know, pretzel sales, we've taken out the candle sales, we got rid of wrapping paper, you know, we got rid of, so because it was coming basically one thing after another, and I was getting a lot of feedback that it was just too much. So right now, the Boosterthon is our main fundraising piece. Now entertainment book does great, and the book fair actually does really well for literacy at the school, but the Boosterthon tends to be the anchor to what we do. Now, our spring book fair is not a fundraiser at all. The spring book fair is a buy one, get one free, and that's more for parents. So we make nothing on that. So that is not another fundraiser, so just be aware of that. So what I'm trying to do is get more corporate sponsorship involved in regard to how we get this money. So we're going to look at some other avenues to fund. Hopefully I'll be able to use some of our booster funds. The PTO will allow that. We haven't even got to that point yet. But beyond that, we're going to try not to lay this completely on our parents. We want to try to find some other avenues to try to raise the money from corporate, religious groups, other partnerships. Davidson College I'm going to contact. I'm going to try to get Park and Rec involved because they will have access to the facilities, because our fields are used as part of the Park and Rec, and when our fields are being used, parents are taking their young children over to our playgrounds. So hopefully they will see a need and an interest with that as well. Any questions about Jimmy Johnson? Yes, ma'am.
Well, in regards to the fundraising, with the Booster-thon, and since it is such a event,
yes.
Do you guys, when you do the Booster-thon, do you buy like this? I know they take a large percentage. Is there a way to make their percentage smaller and have people in groups and stuff help out to subsidize those costs? As far as like the T-shirt, we did on our T-shirts for our runs back in California. We had corporate sponsors that would pay $200 to get their name on that T-shirt, and it would be that. It would be $400 if you want, I think, a banner or put a banner. You had like Red Robin, the Robin guy, come out, and they would do food and stuff like that, and they paid to have their little canopies and things to do taste tests and stuff like that, and you can pay for things like that, and it all comes back, and it's a win-win for everybody. But it's additional money that can come in and go towards stuff
I'm not
like
sure,
that.
and it's a good question, because this is actually Booster-thon. I don't think they necessarily started this thing, but now everything's splintering off of it. There's multiple companies out here doing this now, I've been told. So Booster-thon's not the one and only. They saw how much money it was making, so there's other groups that are doing the same thing. So I'm not sure how how flexible they are with their contracts. They're going to have to be eventually, because there's going to be competitors. Before, they were the only game in town, so they could say, well, if you're not going to go by what we want to do, we're going to take our ball and go home. So I don't know. Ms. Sparks is the parent that kind of runs that for us. She would have a much deeper understanding of that piece.
And maybe even searching corporate or businesses like we did. We got surfboards, bikes, and skateboards and things like that we gave away as part of our prizes for our runs. That if you could get things like that and do like maybe some silent auctions or something, anything that helps with, because the whole Booster-thon concept is getting kids active and healthy eating and exercise and stuff like that. That if you got things like that to where you can incorporate a silent auction and auction those things off or something like that, because a lot of businesses will donate stuff like that. Would
you probably have the Booster-thon, these kids are raising all this money for a lap, and then to have their parents come in and do silent auctions on top of that, it's too much.
Is there a fundraising committee for this? I mean, I think this might be.
Oh, for this? Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah.
We just found out about it Thursday. There's no committee.
No, my question is,
We can brainstorm it.
yeah,
Can
we can spend 3 hours
meeting?
brainstorming.
Yeah.
Can you have a parent? Can you set a meeting and say, can parents come and brainstorm with me, and we need to form a committee?
Yeah, we will in time.
And at some point in time, so that you don't get a group of parents over here saying we need to do this, and a group of parents over here saying we want to do that, but bring us all together so that we're all in the same boat.
Is there a deadline for this?
But, we don't have the specifics yet. They've told me a year. So my guess is it's from November to November. So what I want to try to do is, like I said, and I think these are some good ideas. I don't know how much the percentage flexibility is, though, but I think they will have some flex eventually, because, like I said, they're going to have competition now.
Right.
Some of the other things, we did that with our kickball tournament. I thought that was really cool. The Melting Pot, did that to get their name on the back of the jerseys.
That was a phone call.
Yeah,
so
which was amazing, because, last 2 years we've actually paid for those. That was great. we can look at some of those things. But we're gonna have a group pull together. I want to get letters to try to solicit some of the businesses before Christmas, or before we go off for Christmas, and then January would be really when we hit the ground and kind of talk about some of these things. So that's all good. So that was one of the interesting things going on.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
About that. You know, raising this $45,000.
Yep.
Frankly, I don't think is an insurmountable task. But,
Right. I agree.
How does that impact the money that we're raising and the things we were going to do with that money? I mean, are we diverting all of those
No,
funds?
and that's, you know, like I said, I shared it with the board Thursday night. I found out Thursday, well actually Wednesday, and I wasn't allowed to say anything until Thursday. So when I found out Thursday, I shared it with the board, and no, that's actually a very big concern. You know, because one of our major targets was to get smart boards in every classroom. I don't want to divert from that focus. I want that technology still going. So I want to try to keep our focus where we're at and then still try to figure out other avenues to get pots of money. So no, I don't want to do that. We could, and probably be done rather quickly. I mean, I could ask to have all of Booster Funds money and probably create $30,000 like that. But then you're right, it takes away from other projects that we already had earmarked. So I really don't want to do that if I don't have to. It's all going to come down to looking at how much we're able to get from the outside. Now, and we're such at the infancy, there's so many neat ideas out there that you could do, like, you know, just throwing around things. You know, when we found out initially, we were like, well, you could create 8 events during the year for kids where it could be Wacky Hat Day and everybody brings in $1 to wear a wacky hat. Well, you have 1,100 kids in your school, say 800 kids pay $1, you just made $800. Now, do you want a nickel and dime, things like that? We don't know. I don't know. I got to think about it. But it seems like a quick and easy, on the surface, method of doing it for really nothing. If it's not going to be a huge distraction in the classroom, you could probably pull that off. You know, so but I think there's a ton of different ways we can do it with this population as large as we are. So we're going to throw some things around. I've been jotting notes down, and like I said, I've been looking at some business plans online and doing some different things. And like I've already met with the CMS group. Right now, we're kind of just waiting to hear from the Jimmy Johnson Foundation about the specifics. About, are they just going to, you know, write me a check for $45,000 so we can start, and then I have to find the next 45, or are we going to be kind of handcuffed with the $45,000 until we get ours?
Can you use that $45,000 in a piece of whatever?
Right, as I'm saying, if they gave it to me up front, we could. It's broken into phases in the grant actually, so we could start. Another good idea was to, you know, when you look at the grant in and of itself, it's broken into small chunks. So you could go to, for instance, I know one parent that does construction. He's a kindergartner. I could go to him and say, listen, when it comes to this educational learning space, this kind of gazebo or whatever we want to call it, you know, this is what we're saying it cost. Could you talk to some of your friends in construction and perhaps, you know, you can help with this chunk, you know, and they would say, well, we can get a lot of this stuff for free or whatever, and, you know, the labor and things like that. So yeah, to me, that phase can be knocked off, you know, by that simple, you know, kind of using the word of mouth, and then that would be X amount of dollars we just raised instantaneously. You know, so I think we can try to earmark certain businesses to say, you know, this may be beneficial to you. There's other neat things you can do. I mean, again, there's just so many different ideas. There's silhouettes that they use at Pine Lake Prep. If you've ever been there, a teacher told me about it a couple years ago. Actually, it was last year, and I went this summer and just kind of checked it out. It's right off of 115 as you're heading toward Mooresville. They have these cool wood cutouts of kids, colored, and you pay, I'm guessing they paid, and they have a little placard on them with the child's name. This is Ashley, age 9. And then they all ride the fence. And they're all like, and it's really cool, which would be really neat behind the playground. That would be a way you could raise funds. I mean, there's just the bricks you could do. There's just so many, I mean, the sky's the limit. It's just the point of being very strategic in how we do that, so it just doesn't become this one thing after another, after another, after another. You know, so that's really the danger of the whole thing, and I don't want that to happen. I think it's going to be inevitable in some aspects, but we want to try to keep it to the minimum. So that's really my major focus. In regard to conferences should be winding down. If you haven't already done one, please make sure you set one up. Our goal is to try to have 100%. We may change that. I mean, I may ask the school system if I can change that next year. It puts a lot of pressure in trying to get all those done at one time. And the goal for CMS is to get every parent to come in for at least one conference during the year. I think it could be a lot more manageable is if you spread that out throughout the year. and say, at least one time during the year come for a conference and then keep track of that. I don't know if the system will allow me to do that, but that's really what I would like to do. I think it would also stop the cattle call approach of conferencing, which we try to stop by allowing teachers to start at the beginning of October. Some do that, but even with that, you have these situations on one conference day where every 20 minutes you have to have a conference. And to me, I don't think that's absolutely the most effective way of handling how to do that. So I am going to throw that out. I don't know if they'll allow us to do it or not, but it is an idea that I think it'd be beneficial to making the conference experience a little bit more impactful.
I think it would be big. Was that first 9 weeks usually? It's
Yeah.
like, okay.
And you may have specific teachers you want to talk to versus the homeroom teacher. So I think that will solve some of our 3-5 issues that Ms. Kabuka brought up before about trying to make sure you're talking to the people you really need to hear from versus necessarily having everybody there at one given time, or hearing from a homeroom teacher that may not even have your child. In K2 it's a little easier. 3-5 is a little more difficult. So I'm hoping that maybe by doing something like that it could be more strategic in who you would meet. But I don't know if they'll allow me to do it or not. We do have our first holiday concert coming up December 1st. It will be our second graders. I have put out in the Hawkeye quite a few times already that we've changed how we're going to do our concert, so it's going to be one grade level at a time. Not all of our grade levels will be represented this year because of our size. It has gotten to the point where we cannot absorb all the people, and it just doesn't work anymore. So we're going to start with our second grade, and we'll see how that goes on December 1st, and then we'll have another grade level in the spring, and then we'll have one at the end of the year. We may do a couple in for our kids during the year. We'll let parents be aware of those when we have them. Oh, you're fine. Our mobiles for 4th grade parents are in and ready to go. We had about 8 to 10 parents that came in over the last 2 days and moved some of the things from the media center. So how does that impact everyone is that probably by early next week, kids will be back in the media center for media class, which will make life easier on our media teacher. Art is still on the cart for the time being. I will be getting one more mobile eventually. Not sure exactly when that'll be, but when that happens, Mr. Catchpole will leave the art room and he will also go outside, and that way all of 4th grade will be together. Right now he'll be kind of the lone star in the art room for the time being, but beyond that all of 4th grade will be closer together starting next week.
I thought that Miss Woods was staying.
She is, but that's still cool. No, that's close proximity though.
Okay.
Yeah, we decided to keep her there because she's at the very end of the hall, and all the 4th grade is really right outside the door. And then I'm putting a smart board in there anyway. I think may already be in there now. And it just made sense to do that. So yeah, she's staying exactly where she is, but she'll still be closer. Lee's kind of the odd man out now, and Art's still going to float for the time being. So hopefully we'll get that taken care of. But the other two will be up and running very quickly, so that'll solve the media center issue from that regard. And, and the parents have been great with that. And I sent out an email literally within 10 minutes. I had 8 to 10 parents that came that day and were moving boxes for the teachers. So it was really good. In fact, we had a couple of parents that came in yesterday afternoon and everything was done. And then the teachers just had to say thank you and send them on their way. So that has been good. And I think it's carried on for so long, the teachers are actually excited now versus being like, oh my goodness, I want out of here. It's more of like, they don't care that the room's not ready yet. They're just ready to get their own room. So, it's kind of worked out that they're pretty excited, and I think the kids will be as well. Just to kind of share a few other things, if you walk through the building the last couple days, you'll see some street signs and wall placards kind of that are new. We didn't pay for those as a school. When we switched our photography company, that was part of the package. They gave us an opportunity to do some different things. So we got a few banners with that. We got an A-frame billboard that you can put outside when kids are tardy to say that parents need to come in and sign their children in. We also got a few other signs that go with it, like for open house nights and different things. That came with it. The street signs came with it. Some different things to tie into. These right here we received some of these. We received some with our character pledge on it. So we'll have those throughout the building. But those were not paid for by us. That was actually through Life Touch, who is our photographer, and it was part of that package. Just so people, when they ask me why am I wasting money on those things, those were actually free. Another thing that I want you to start to talk to your children about is the morning news a little bit. We have some really cool things going on in the morning news now. I've gotten some really good feedback from parents in regard to the use of vocabulary. Every day I'm on the news now, and I pledged this year that I was going to do it. I've said it for 3 years in a row, and I've slowly not been on, or I've been on once and never been seen again. This year I am on every single day that I'm on campus, or if I'm not here, Mr. O goes on, and I go over a few different things. One, I started off with the Essential 55 book, which is by Ron Clark, and I went through all the 55 standards with our students, and I kind of talk about them, give examples of them, and things of that nature. Now I'm on Life's Lessons by Hal Urban, which is a really cool book that he wrote for his children about how kids need to be prepared for life. So you'll be hearing things like, today is life is funny, and we need to find funny things that are going on around us all the time. Now, I let kids know that there's an appropriate time for that and a not appropriate time, but we see in research that the happier we are as people, the more healthy we are as people, and the more successful we can be. Another one that I've done, I've only done 2 so far, is success is more than money. Our kids are trained now with all that they see around them that success equals money, and that's not what success equals. Success is hard work. Success is perseverance. Success is being able to work through problems. So I shared that with them one day this week. So we'll go through that book next, and we'll talk about that. We also talk about manners. No, I'm not trying to preach to your children about manners, but I think it is important. And I will go as even far to talk about how they should act at home. So today, and not that they're always listening, but some are. Today I talked about not jumping on the furniture. I talked about making sure you clean your shoes before you come in the house. Sharing television time, sharing computer time. I said if you have technology in the house, we need to learn how to share that technology. If you walk in and somebody's watching something, you need to have quiet conversations. Simple things that we assume a lot of times, but I do share them with our kids, hoping that it'll stick with somebody. I get some good feedback from some of the little ones about it. Some kids probably block it out, and they're going to do what they do, but
I hear a lot about buckets.
yeah. So we talk about it a lot. So just so you know, I talk about manners every day, and I talk about it in the cafeteria, keeping our hands off other people's food, and we don't. You think that would be common sense, but it's not. The other thing I've really been preaching to kids is, imagine if you're sitting with your parents at your table, would you act this way? When I have conversations with kids now about behaviors, I really focus a lot on what do you think if your mom was standing behind you and you did X behavior, what would they do? And 99% of the feedback is really good, where they say, it wouldn't be allowed, and I'd be, this, so then you can't do that here then. So I always try to use the good angel thing, where it's like, your mom is, and my mom, even though I made a lot of bad choices in my life, my mom was always on my shoulder about certain things in regard to how I should act in certain situations. That's a good thing, to get kids to start to think reflectively on before they act on a situation, to be able to look at it and say, wait, would my mom and dad be cool with this? And if they're not, even if they hesitate for a minute, maybe it's going to stop somebody from making a choice. So we do have those conversations with our kids. Yes?
In regards to you doing the news and stuff like that, and sometimes it's so much better to hear it from somebody other than a parent.
Right.
But I do notice that some of the classrooms do not stop what they're doing to pay attention to the TV. Is that something that you would like them to do?
We preach it, and we're going to have to continue to preach it. I've heard it for years. I was hoping when it was all kids, it was a real problem. Meaning that when the kids were the only ones on the air, it was zoned out in certain places big time. So I was hoping with me being on, it was going to improve it, and I'm hoping it is because I'm not in there typically, but yeah, it's something we preach a lot, that it should be quiet time. At the minimum, they should be working on an activity without talking. But yeah, it should be a time that they're really paying attention, because we tie in the life's lessons piece, we tie in manners every single day. I do a vocabulary word of the day, and I've actually gotten some cool feedback about that. Yesterday, I got 2 emails from parents about, hey, my son or daughter used the word melancholy in their writing yesterday, because that was our vocab word of the day. So we talk about our vocabulary words every single day. I try to use it in a sentence. I'll tie in scientific terms every once in a while. I've done a couple math terms. We're just trying to get kids to use new vocabulary in their writing, and that's really how I framed it. Even in their oral presentation, I go home and use this word when you talk to your parents. Some do, some don't, but at least we're exposing it to them. I even put it on my teacher weekly memo now so they can actually use it in the classroom. So I know in some classes, for instance, in Miss Upchurch's room, they have words of the day that anytime they have a transition, the kids have to say the word and say the definition as they transition. So for instance, if it's melancholy, when they're leaving the carpet to go back to their seats, God bless you, she'll say melancholy, and then the kids will say melancholy, and then they say melancholy means sad. And they go sit down to try to ingrain that in their head. So, you know, teachers are using it in different ways now, but we do that every single day. And then we've also found something really neat just recently called Wonderopolis. It's a website that you can go to. It's called Wonderopolis.com, and they send you a clip of the day. And it ties into all kinds of really neat things. And what we've been doing is I kind of read a little snippet about it on the news at the end, and then there's a video that the kids watch. We did do all the, I can't remember what they're called, but they're on TV all the time. They're character-based little mini clips that you see on the news all the time, on the TV commercials all the time, where one's a long-haired young man that's with an old lady and he helps her across the street. A lady leaves her purse on a bench. We showed all those, we had those, but now we're watching these Wonderopolis things. There was one on King Tut the other day. Today was on growing pains. When kids are growing up, we call them growing pains. Is that really what it is? And you know, it goes into a little bit about that. But it's really cool, and they actually send them to your email every day if you sign up. So you can get that at your house and talk about it. But it's a cool little thing we just found that can create discussion. And when you talk about current events and trying to get kids to think about authentic things, it's a cool way to try to ingrain what's going on around them. So that I wanted to kind of share that because that's new.
It's .org.
Oh, okay, .org. I'm sorry. And you know, another thing that we're going to add into our Hawkeye starting, we're not going to have a Hawkeye this week because of Veterans Day, but another thing we're going to add into our Hawkeye, we've talked a little bit about being a raving fan. It's a book that we gave out to our teachers this summer, and it's really about trying to create an environment, finding out what your customers want, and creating an environment where people want to come back to it and they become your raving fans. And businesses use it. You can use it in all aspects of your life, but being a public school, you know, we have to look out for, one, what our goals are as a school environment, but also we need to look at our parents as clients and say, you know, what are they looking for? And we can't always do exactly what the parent wants, but we have to try to find a middle ground there to make them our raving fans. So as we've gotten notes from parents about, hey, we're really pleased about what we're seeing in X teacher's class, and they give an example to me. We've been putting that in our staff newsletter as, hey, these are great things that are going on in our school. This is what X parent says about Miss Jackson. And we put it in there. We're actually going to start putting it in our Hawkeye so parents can start to see what's going on with our teachers. We've had over 40 right now different things that have been sent in to me from parents, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but typically we don't get to hear that kind of feedback on a regular basis, so I want to share it and get other parents excited about sharing the same thing. You can go on our school website and click the link.
Yeah, there's
and
a
Mr.
link on
Rose
the
set
school
up.
website that you can just go on there and you can put a blurb or whatever you want about your child's teacher or something, and then that link comes straight to me. And then we get ready to do our weekly newsletter and stuff. Then I kind of edit that down a little bit and put that information in our newsletter. So.
But I think it's another way to kind of affirm the good things going on in the school. Yes.
Also, I was going to suggest also, do you keep track of the hot feathers that you announce and all that?
No.
And all the ones? Because I think if we could put that in the Hawkeye just at the bottom every week, that's a way to get the kids to get their parents to go to the Hawkeye a little more often.
Because unless you're sitting in carpool line or sitting in the classroom, you don't know that you're
Yeah,
talking
you don't hear it, and the kids love for the parents
Do you
to.
actually get the blue sheets, Mr. G?
I get to, basically what I do is,
Because I was going to say,
not everybody probably turns them into me, but basically I ask the teachers to give them to me first, and then I'll announce them. I don't do all, like sometimes in specials, there's some special area teachers that do it anytime a class does a good job, and it's basically, you know, if they have one every week, they get one every single week. So I try to filter my way through that and focus more on the individual student ones, and then once I'm done with them, I give them back to the homeroom teachers to give to the children.
okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I was
So,
gonna
but I
say,
can do that.
I mean, if you
That'd be great.
had something you could just hand to me and I could put it in the newsletter, just type it into.
Well, I can probably, what I can do is just as I do them, I can just type them into the part that I do, and then
Okay.
Helen can get it to you. That shouldn't be a big deal.
Also, just like the character trade boards too.
Oh, yeah.
Too. department while
Yeah,
you know
you're right.
that I have to always
The high flying
yes,
hawk monthly
whenever-
awards.
Right.
That's good too.
Just along those lines,
Yes.
I think if you're going to start putting those in the Hawkeye, I think some teachers participate in that more than others.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important that the staff be on the same page with that, because otherwise you're going to, get a bunch of kids who are disappointed because they're never in the newsletter
Sure.
because their teacher doesn't participate.
Okay. No, that's good. Okay. Well, that's something easily we can do. I think it's a good idea.